Hello my fellow aquarists, welcome back to Aquatic Labs YouTube channel. Today we are going to be testing on the Fluval Evo. That's right, it's been cycling for almost a couple of days now, so we're going to see where it's at. I've been doing some tests in the last couple of days, but I thought I'd show you how I do my testing, as well as show you some of the new test kits that I've got in my hands today. So I've got the Hannas here, we're going to test them out today and see how they compare to some of the traditional testing methods. Alrighty, before we begin, the best key to success when it comes to testing your home aquarium is having a workbench or a space that you can keep everything nice and clean. As you can see here, this is my little workbench that I have in my fish room. It is a little bit messy, but I can find everything that I need to do for testing. So on here, I basically have a nice clear space where I can put my vials, do my testing, do everything like that. And I have a spot where I can wash up at the end of the day. So on the left hand side there are my buckets where I can put fresh distilled water in there, some water with vinegar to clean the vials after I testing, to make sure my future testing stays very accurate and there's no cross contaminations. In the center there you can see all my test kits. They're stored away in boxes. So starting from the left hand side in the tub here, I've got my cycling test kit, my pH, my ammonia, nitrite, nitrate test kits there. Then I've start moving across to my fundamentals of my magnesium, calcium, KH, everything's in there. And then on the other side there I have my Hanna test kits, which I am going to break in today. As well as I have ample light here on the workbench. The key to a lot of the coloration test kits is that you need good light to determine when the color changes. For instance, on the calcium one, you get a little bit of a purple, and that's not all the way done. You need to go straight to a blue. So having a natural white light in your workspace for testing saves you in the long run. The second thing that I say is key to success for testing, especially a saltwater aquarium, is having a chart of all your past testing. So I use the Aquarimate app here. You can use whatever you want, but I have everything here on my tablet from past tests, so I can start seeing trends and making sure that I dose accordingly to those trends and changes in my tank. So as once we start adding stock, we should start seeing the trends change a lot more when it comes to adding supplements into a tank, such as the one that we're setting up. So everything else is ready to go. We're going to start testing off. First of all, we're going to start off with our ammonia testing. So the way I do it is I make sure that I have all the tests kind of in a spot where I can get to them, make sure I'm not going to get any cross contaminations, making sure that I add the right parts to it. So I have everything here that's been cleaned from the last testing from yesterday. Everything's been dried out, everything's been washed, sterilized, everything is ready to go. So I can grab my vial, grab my little cheat sheet for my ammonia test kit. The best thing about the Red Sea little test kits, everything is there. As you can see, they're quite well used, and it tells me everything that I need to do. So first step is what I do. So grab some water. You can have some water on the side there, making sure my things all fit in there, and give it a quick wash out with some of your aquarium water. That way you know any bits of water in there is from the aquarium. Again, no cross contaminations. Even if you put the lid on there, again, like I said, you really don't want any cross contaminations in there. Just give it a good clean out. And this is where I have my little bucket there for slops. Chuck everything in there. You want to be very careful with your waste from your tests. Some of this stuff is very corrosive, can be very harmful to the environment, so you want to dispose of it correctly. So I've got a little bucket there, that is my waste bucket, so I can dispose of it correctly down the line. So, get to testing. So as you can see there, I've got a little bit of air bubbles in the actual syringe. Now we're not at the 5 ml mark, but these little air bubbles will have a detriment to your accuracy. You want to make sure you get rid of them. So give a couple of flicks, start loosening them up, And I mean, I think we've all seen this stuff on the on TV doctor shows where people get rid of the excess air from syringes or anything like that. So we kind of got to react that and making sure that there's, as you can see, no more air bubbles in there. So it might take a while, but it is key to success. We want to make sure that we get accuracy 100% of the time. So again, with my little swap bucket, I'll get rid of all the excess. So you want to be very careful with it, and you want to make sure that the base of the little rubber bit inside the syringe there is right on the 5mm mark, not down below or anything like that. That line there, and that's the key to properly measuring out 5mm, or any measurement for that fact. So got that in there, follow it up. So luckily for me, I do have a little timer set into my parameter, so I can make sure that I have, you know, the right time for everything. Now with the scoops, you just want to make sure that it is nice and level, because like I said, when testing a marine tank, or any tank for instance, you want to have that accuracy down point. I mean, if you've been keeping aquariums for a while, you should know all this already, but every now and then, human error does take the best of us. Give that a good shake. The only thing I really don't like about the Red Sea test kits is these lids aren't 100% of a fit most of the time, so you want to make sure that they're in there really good. And give everything a good little shake. And now my 5 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll probably notice that I do have like some little marks here on my bench top, and that's for the magnesium, because knowing a lot of people, we all forget how many counts we're up. Alright. Good 10 seconds there. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Done. And give it a good shake. Now, I'm pretty sure this is day 5 of the cycle, so I suspect that there is going to be a good amount of ammonia in there. Yesterday's test said that there was 2 parts or even more, so we want to make sure that it gets down lower. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 for that one. Cool. And start. So you can already start seeing a colour change in that one. So again, put my stuff away. Keeping a nice, clean, tidy workspace is very important. I'm going to test the pH now. It does jump out of line a little bit, but the reason why I want to test my pH is so when I read my ammonia reading, it is quite accurate towards the pH as well. So I grabbed myself another little vial, got my pH there. Again, very simple. The guides just for Red Sea is fantastic like that. Keeps it very, very simple, except for the phosphorus one. That one got a little bit confusing, but don't need to worry about that. Alright, so I just need 5 mils. And again, making sure we got no air bubbles. Like I say to myself, I feel like a mad scientist every time I do more testing. I think it's probably the fun part of keeping an aquarium is the science behind the marine aquariums and everything like that is just incredible. The relationship between carbonate hardness, everything like that. But it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes to do testing with time constraints. So again, 5 mils and the 3 drops. And the thing with pHs, you want to make sure that you are testing it straight away. You don't want to let it settle. It will affect the results, and will be quite different to what you've got in your tank compared to what you've got in your vial. So give it a good shake and we'll compare. So I've got a little handy little USB light here, which makes it very easy to do a color comparison. I'm going to say that's probably about 8.2, between 8 and 8.2, in between there. So it's very handy, like I said, to make sure that you have really good light. Even on your phone, you can use photo apps and stuff like that to get a color comparison as well if you're having trouble determining which color is which. But I'm going to say that's probably about 8.2, which means it has dropped from yesterday, which is fine because we did dose a bit of carbonate into the tank yesterday. But we'll save the results, keep it as a trend, and of course dispose of it and stick it in there, give it a good wash. So while that's going, looks pretty good. The ammonia is slowly dropping, but we still have some time there. I'm going to do my nitrate. Okay, so everything is progressing along. I've got my ammonia and nitrite test kits going. Right now, I'm going to do a comparison of accuracy towards the Hanna test kit and the Red Sea KH. Now, this is nowhere near the pro level of KH, which is using titration. This is just literally a dropper and some files and doing a quick count test. For this, we are just going to go with seeing how close we can get it. I know from personal experience that the Hanna test kit is very accurate compared to the Red Sea, but this will definitely get us a proper point value compared to a simple KH drop. So I'm going to grab my 10 mils and we'll start the test, and we'll work alongside the Hanna as well. Okay, so I've got my 10 mils of water from the tank, and now I know from the chart, every time I do one of these drops in there, it is 0.5 DKH of KH. I want to get a little bit in there, which is fantastic. And basically, it's going to add 1 drop, shake, 2 drops, shake, and keep going until we get that green coloration. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, what's around 12? 13, so it'd be about 6.5, and I like to go one more until we get to that yellow colour. So I'm going to say we're about 6.5 kH at the moment, which is reasonably low, but like I said, we'll do a comparison to that accuracy with the Hanna. I'm going to wash that little pipette. I'm going to tip that out and get that washed as well. Okay, so the Hanna test kit is relatively simple. You get yourself a little vial. Make sure that it is nice and clean. We'll give it a quick wash out with the tank water, and then we'll come back and we'll start the testing with it. Alright, so I've filled up my little vial to the 10 mil mark. Let's see if we can get a little bit better shot. So if you have a look from it, that is pretty dead on, and that's what you want to have a look at when you're going for the 10 mil mark. So I've got that there. I'm going to turn on the Hanna checker, and it is now telling me to add the C1. So basically it is just getting a calibration of your tank water, and the best way to do that is make sure your vial is nice and clean. There's no like water or anything on the outside, And with that little 10mm marker on the front there, we're going to face that forward and chuck it in. So I've got my 10mm mark there, and that's going to hang at the front, and we hit the middle button there. So we're going to wait until it pops up and says add C2, which it says there. Bit of glare, always the way. So it's telling me to add C2, so what I'm going to do is take out my vial, grab our 1mm syringe, give the bottle a bit of a shake. I was doing that while we're waiting, and we're going to add exactly 1mm of the reagent. So again, we want to be very accurate with this. Not only is it very pricey reagent, but again, it will affect our results if we're not accurate. So we're just going to add that into the vial. Make sure that we've got it all. Put our lid on. Give it a bit of a shake around. Again, clean it up. Look for the 10mm mark again. And add it in. Now, we wait. And it says 6.2 right there. 6.2. So, we started getting green on the Red Sea test kit around the 6. And then 6.5, it was definitely green. So, very fairly accurate there. So 6.2 for KH there, very quite low for this tank, which is very surprising because it is, I am dosing a little bit in there, get it up there to maintain normal pH so that the tank stays stable. So again, we're going to add that into our log as well. 6.2. So you can see how accurate that is compared to the Red Sea KH. It's always nice to have redundancy with testing as well, just in case some days you might get that crazy off the chart, where the other times, you know, you want to make sure that it's fine. So if you're unsure about your test results, double test it, do a new test with a different test kit. See how you compare with it as well. Okay, so that's the KH test kit. Calcium checker. Now, I've had my fair share of problems with the calcium checker. I could never get it right, very accurate compared to what I was doing with the Red Sea. However, after talking with some fellow users with the Hanna checker, we've come to a conclusion to what was causing the crazy spikes in terms of the calcium reading. So it was usually around 100, 150 parts per million higher than what the Red Sea was saying. And it came down to the water that I was using. Now, the RO water that I pick up from my local fish store contains calcium in it, which will affect the reading of your Hanna checker. So I've gone out and got myself some distilled water. It was reading at 200 parts per million when testing it, which is what you want it to be, because that means it has zero calcium in it. So I picked up a couple of bottles from the local supermarket. Find it near your ironing stuff. Works really, really well. Tested it out yesterday. Perfect, spot on. So there you go. So that's that was the one issue that I had with the Hanna checker. Other than that, it is a bit tedious when it comes to testing it. For one, the mini pipette has two stages. So you go down all the way, and that goes over the recommended dosage for it. So if you go down to your level 1, that is where you want to go. And then as you put it into your vial, you press it all the way down, expels all the water from your little tubing there. So it's only got one little press. If you go further than that, you kind of ruin your testing. So we'll do a Red Sea comparison, and then we'll test out the Hanna. Okay, got my 5 mils, and let's work on the calcium testing. I'll give that a bit of a shake. Now again, the Red Sea test kits are very good, very easy to follow in some instances. Like I said, we're not going to get into the phosphorus one. However, there is a lot of human error, and it is all color coding. So this is why I'm starting to really get on board with the Hanna test kits. The first one is that, yes, there is a bit of trial and error with it, and for the first couple of weeks or so as you break it in, you will be doing some double testing just to make sure that your test kits are matching to what your other test kits are. And it's always going to be the same with any new test kits. When you get new test kits in or want to try something else, you'll be doubling up. So if you went with, say, Aquaforest phosphate test kits, you'll probably compare them to your Red Sea test kits, see which ones are a little bit, if they're getting the same results, and you can probably move on. And I recommend that for anything. If you get a new test kit and you're still using your old one, probably wait a little while before, you know, changing your test kit, so you're making sure that what you have is very accurate. Make sure that's clean out. Like always, make sure you're very, very careful with your sodium, with your calcium test kits. Sodium hydroxide is not a fun chemical to spill on yourself. So, in the natural light here, I'm going to just pan up a little bit. Got my light here. And just slowly add it in until I start seeing a colour. So it's very important to have the light. Like I said, you want to make sure that you're testing in as much of a white light as possible. I mean, you can get those warm lights, can throw off the colours a little bit. You want a perfect white light. So you're making sure that everything is getting its color coding right. Still a little bit purple for my liking. Starting to go a little bit blue. I'm going to hold it there, make sure it doesn't go back to purple. There we go. It looks like we use 0.75. So dispose of that. Put everything back. 0.75. It looks like we're around the 375 mark, according to that. So we'll compare that to the Hanna. So 375, the Red Sea test kit reckons. This will be interesting. So make sure you've always got your handy test kit there, cheat sheet I should say. So there's our little vials. I'm going to give it a quick rinse out with some of the distilled water, make sure there's no residual chemicals or anything in there, and I've spilt a whole heap of water because that's what I do. Okay, so the first step is we're going to add a ml of the reagent to the bottom. Again, maintaining very good accuracy. And 1 ml. Everything away, make sure lids are tight, don't want anything spilt. Then with our little pipette here, grab approximately 9 mils of this. This will take us some time. So again, like the alkalinity one, we want to make sure that the bow of the water is at the base of that line. So there we go. And get rid of the excess water. Again, don't want to put it into a uncontaminated source. And we give this a bit of a shake and a clean up as well. So again, like the alkalinity test, we've got our 10 mil mark there. We're going to face that forward, close the lid, and bam. In the meantime, while that's doing that, I'm going to go grab myself my little syringe of tank water. Got my syringe of tank water there, and it's now telling me to add the C2 component. So very carefully, we add the water in. And see, there's a tiny little bit left, so we go all the way down. And that is our sample of our tank water is in there. Grab one of our little sachets, and this is probably the biggest problem that I have with the Hanna test kits overall, is this. This is very unenvironmentally friendly. I would like to see something that may be a little bit more reusable, like the Red Sea. You get those little containers and that, they're fantastic. I kind of like it. I understand that they don't want human error involved with the testing of, with their products, so testing with their products. But this creates a lot of waste. If you can imagine, if you're testing calcium every day, you're using the Hanna test kit, you're gonna 7 packs of these every day, and like I said, it's not very environmentally friendly, and as reefers and aquarists and stuff like that, we should have appreciation for nature, making sure that we aren't using stuff that is producing a lot of landfill waste and everything like that. So biggest problem was the Hanna Instruments, in my opinion. Okay. Make sure we get all that in there. Looks like we have. And we give that a bit of a shake. So, yeah. If Hanna could come up with a better solution to making sure that there's individual servings, correctly portion it out so that there is no human error whatsoever with it all, I'm happy with that, but it's time being, like I said, not very environmentally friendly. So I'm going to let that sit there for a few seconds to get all the bubbles to come up. And again, make sure that the vial is clean, we've got no fingerprints or anything like that on there. Bubbles are still coming up, so again, just wait a few more seconds. And again, those little bubbles and that will chuck in a bit of inaccuracy to the testing as well. So that looks like it's settled down, making sure that our 10 mil symbol is at the front as well, and we hit. So the Hanna tester is saying we've got 404, and we're out by 29 parts. I'm pretty sure that is a reasonable accuracy compared to the Red Sea. I mean, we're talking, an extra 50 or more. I'd probably call that not really as accurate, but 404, I can live with that in terms of accuracy. So I've got a ballpark idea if you wanted to do, an average between the two, but keeping in mind that the Hanna instrument being quite new, I would probably lean towards more of the Red Sea because I'm more familiar with that. So until I dial that in, I'd probably go towards more the Red Sea, but I'm still quite happy with that result as well. So 400, so a little bit of dosing needed for that. And of course, at the end of the day, all testing everything away. So after a couple of days of testing, as you can see there, this is probably day 5 of the tank going. You can kind of get an idea of where we're standing with the tank cycle at the moment. Didn't test nitrate because the nitrite is holding steady. Haven't seen much of a spike with that. Calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, not too worried about, and our pH. Everything is holding quite fine for the time being. Probably going to add a little bit more KH to it to make sure that the pH and everything stays quite normal and stable. So you can see everything there holding up quite importantly. It's very important with a tank, any tank that you're working on as a project, is that you make sure that you record your results for your testing. So like I said, you can find your trends and make sure that if any problems happen, you know what your parameters are at that time. So thank you for watching today, guys. I hope you enjoyed a quick video on my testing procedures and what to look for when it comes to testing. As you can see behind me, the tank is doing fantastic, other than the few alkalinity swings that we're having. But I don't think that's too much of a problem. I'm going to be dosing that a little bit every day, just to make sure that when the tank is perfectly ready in the coming weeks, that when we add the corals in, the system is spot on conditions wise for the new corals, so they can just instantly get on with it and growing. Coming weeks though, we'll be changing up the lighting and making sure that we can grow some really awesome corals in there. Again, making sure that our system is very pristine, and we'll probably do one more testing video before we start adding stock in there to make sure that everything is perfect, because small little tanks, changes can happen very quickly, and it's probably the biggest downside to nano tanks. But they're awesome, they're fun to play around with, and you can get some crazy stocking happening in there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learnt a little bit today, and I'll catch you all in the next video.